be seen as a uniquely powerful chancellor, I think, and a very good chancellor broadly, up until about 2005-06, when he started to spend too much money, leaving us with a structural deficit.
Look at what the papers say tomorrow. Brown plays the last card in The Guardian, and of course he will carry on for the next 4 months, one imagines, unless, of course, there is a Tory Lib coalition. The Independent, the sacrifice, Brown steps down to enable a deal with the Liberal Democrats. Brown to quit and bid to win over Liberal Democrats. I mean, the Liberal Democrats say it was a deal breaker. The Daily Mail, a squalid day for democracy, a very Labour coup. The Daily Telegraph. Well, of course, you know, he was very good at that kind of manoeuvring, wasn't he?
Well, it was very interesting. One of his aides said to me at the weekend, who'd been through about 10,000 crises with Brown, he always has some kind of ace to play during the crisis. It not always works, but he always has a card play. But I wonder what there is this time. Well, it turned out to be his own resignation, very cleverly timed. And if it comes off, still a huge if, it would be quite a remarkable resignation that becomes a game changer in quite a profound way.
And of course, in the midst of that announcement he was going to resign, he dropped the line, formal negotiations are taking place with the Lib Dems.
Yes, he did. And of course, if he pulls it off, he'd also brought himself to September, so he'd at least clock up 3 years on the scoreboard, so his premiership would look a bit better. I think looking at the premiership part of it, with the exception of the financial crisis, where I'm one of those who give them a lot of credit, he did lead the world in recapitalisation, taking a big gamble with that when the Americans and the Europeans weren't ready to do it. But the part of the tragedy of his premiership, and a surprise to many of his friends, that he never seemed to find an overarching narrative for it, a purpose for it, and as a result he couldn't renew Labour sufficiently.
Yes, because he'd wanted it for too long, hadn't he? And he was only forced into the style of cabinet government when things went badly wrong for him.
Yeah, he had quite an awkward inheritance, actually, which would need 10 hours to look at, not 30 seconds.
I'm sure there'll be 10 hours soon.
But he never, I think, fully found his public prime ministerial voice. There were obviously the famous behind-the-scenes tensions that Andrew has chronicled in his latest book. And, of course, he faced a whole range of crises, not entirely brought on by himself, including the economic one, actually. Parliamentary expenses, a whole range of things. And also, of course, it was at the end of a government which had been around for a heck of a long time. People had ambition spent and therefore could be more troublesome. It was a difficult time to get it, I think.
Having said that, if there had been another leader in place going into this election, would we be in any other position than a hung parliament, given the legacy of, Iraq, Afghanistan, the economy, expenses scandal?
It's true. I think the Labour Party may rue that at the very least it didn't have a leadership contest in 2006-07, which at least I expect he would have won it, but he wouldn't have had this unelected Prime Minister hung around his neck quite so negatively as he did. I mean, another thing which Gordon Brown and other colleagues are responsible for, I mean, he had 3 years, he could have been quicker on constitutional reform, he could have tried to introduce AV already, and Labour might be in a much better position to do a coalition if they had done.
OK, just before we go, a quick word from both of you. Who will be the next leader of the Labour Party?
But let's see who throws their hats into the ring first.
It looks as if it will be David Miliband, Ed Balls, possibly a couple of others, including David's brother might be in there as well. But it's very early on. I don't think it's going to be resolved for quite some time yet, whatever happens.
Thank you both very much. Well, that's all from Newsnight tonight. Do join us for Deal or No Deal tomorrow night. Same time, same place. Good night.